Hello, everyone. Welcome to Obvio. Look at that, nice waves. Got a lot of people that have joined us this morning. My morning. Most of you, it's your afternoon. Um, Little croaky. I'm sorry, but I'm pushing through. Hello, Liberty. Nice to see you. Hello, Heather. Franklin. You've got a you've probably got a good 90 minutes to wait until you ask your question because you normally wait right to the end. So everyone can post questions in the dashboard that you came through. That was ask a question. If you click that button and put your question in there, that way we can keep track of them all. That goes into it's just a form in Obvio, and that goes into our little moderation tool, so we can see the questions, and that's how we can make sure we don't miss any. We use the chat obviously for back and forth and some questions that often follow up sort of questions on the topic that we're talking about. And then we can raise hands and talk as well, but preferably we go to the posted questions first. So if you wanted to discuss something, even putting the question onto the dashboard and ask a question, you put that there first and say, I'd like to talk about XYZ. Then that means that we can keep the order correct for everyone, and have some orderly discussion. So and generally the things that we're talking about are Obvio related questions, things that you're playing around with, and that can be advanced, it can be entry level, it can be wherever it is. These calls don't build on each other, right? So it's just wherever you're at, you can ask a question about Obvio. Inevitably, we get into discussions about online events and sort of virtual events in general, and we might have some tips and things that we throw around in that space as well. And then also some production questions, things about how making Zoom work and how do you get the microphone in and playing out videos or whatever it is. Inevitably, we get to those sorts of things as well. But that's generally the order that we try to work this in. Is Obvio, general event, online events, and production. So that's how it works. We're live streaming this to YouTube for the express purpose of it being available for you to watch afterwards and to find and go back over. So that's the easiest way for us to do that. You'll see on the dashboard that there was a playlist, a YouTube playlist of all these calls, and so that was it's a really efficient way of doing recordings, actually, because they become available even during the call. You can actually scrub back through.
Is he frozen for anyone else?
So for instance, if Grant freezes, we can rewind it and see the moment that it happened. So.
Did I just freeze? Weird.
Welcome back.
Am I back now? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, weird. Well, there you go. It happens sometimes. So yeah, if I freeze, you can go back over and enjoy it all over it again. So there you go. So Heather, have we got any questions in there yet?
Yeah, we do. We have quite a few. So the first one is from Liberty. She wants to know what would cause a HubSpot integration to disconnect, and is there a notification for that?
So there can be a few different reasons, and possibly not all that helpful for you. The integrations do have changes that we're not made aware of, often on the third party side. There's not notifications. It's one of the things that we're sort of working on to try to help a little bit with that. the only thing that we can suggest at the moment is sort of regular testing and seeing that it's seeing that you're getting what you're expecting to come through. If you're not seeing that, and then that's when it needs to be reconnected. Is that sort of the experience that you had, that it looked like it was connected, but it wasn't? It had stopped?
Yeah, I had built out 5 events and linked
Hmm.
them all, and they were connected and the data was transferring. And then I left it, went back during an event, and all of them had unlinked.
Hmm.
So, and this was after that other issue that we were messaging about last month. So,
Hmm.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so,
So yes, so that can happen. It does feel, like it's not confidence building, isn't it, when things like this happen? Um, uh, the the challenge for us is when there is, um, as I said, there's little changes that happen, or there's service interruptions that happen, which inevitably happen, and they can happen on both sides, either side, is reestablishing that connection. And so, unfortunately, the only thing at the moment is to be regularly testing, or and to see that that's still connected. Okay, there must have been something that, one, like an interruption that happened that knocked them all out, right? Like the same thing happened. So the automations are great, and they do work really well. They're just, I guess we call them semi-automatic, in that it's helpful to just be checking in on them, and making sure they're okay. Sorry, I don't have a better answer for you on that. But it is something that we're looking at. Notifications in general is something that we are exploring, and have done some work on, in having a central notification place, so that things like some warnings, or things that might suggest where to look into some things, is something that we're looking at to improve, so that it gives you some input there. But yeah, I do encourage people, particularly as you're getting closer to the event, to just do some quick tests yourself, and then you know that things are working okay. Cool. Next question.
This one is also from Liberty. She says, is there a matrix mapping out the benefits of using Avio versus a standard Zoom meeting and some type of membership site to replace the dashboard features?
So we're in the process of building out the marketing website to sort of show, the features of Ovio. Off the top of my head, things that we talk about is Ovio being a temporary membership site, based around an event, that is a place, sort of a home for your event during, before, during, and after, that ties everything into getting people into Zoom. So it's the easiest way to get attendees into Zoom, and a few things that we have focused on. One is the no requirement for passwords for any of the team and any of your attendees, so that following a link from an email through to the dashboard, through to right through to Zoom, while still controlling the name that people appear as in Zoom. I guess the one thing that's important to sort of acknowledge when we're thinking about Obvio is its origins. The key thing that we needed when we first started Obvio was multiple rooms, multiple meetings, right? So we didn't build Obvio to just go into one Zoom meeting. we built it to go into multiples because from day one, we needed over 1,200 people. First event, well, yeah, the first event was more than that, but the first event that Sage did that was supposed to be 400 people in March 2020 was 400 registered in-person registrations, and that changed to online, and it went from 400 to 6, 8, 1,000, 1,200. And as soon as that happened, they needed the ability to go to multiple Zoom meetings. And so that's where the key reason for Obvio came about was how do we manage multiple Zoom meetings as if they're one? Because we had that limitation of 1,000 people, but actually, we even smaller than that because we had breakout rooms. We wanted to do breakout rooms with, at that stage, it was 50, a maximum of 50 people. A maximum of 50 breakout rooms per meeting. And so that limited the maximum amount of people you could have in each meeting. Anyway, not to labor that point, but that has been one of the key functionalities of Obvio is being able to scale your Zoom meetings beyond 1,000 and manage that in an intelligent way, particularly with things like VIP rooms or different languages or things like that. And this all comes back to our belief in Zoom meeting being key and not Zoom webinar, right? That we want to see people, and even when webinar, can have breakout rooms and things like that, we still believe that meeting is the place to be. Like in this meeting that we're having right now, I can see 20 or so somewhat bored faces as you listen to this Aussie talk about this stuff. But it's really key, right? And so we don't want to go to webinar. We love the fact that Zoom has said we can do webinars of 1 million people. That's brilliant, because it talks to how Zoom is thinking of scale. So then we just keep knocking on their door saying, let's think about meeting as well. How can we push meeting to beyond 1,000? And, is there those sorts of things, So, so all of that to say that that's the origin. 4 years ago, we needed a way to get our attendees into multiple Zoom meetings and manage that in an intelligent way. Relaxed and laid back, nice. And then all of these extra kind of temporary membership, event-based things got built out on the dashboard, and they've all come about as our needs have grown to having highly customizable dashboard experiences or customized. I said customized. Personalized is what I was thinking of. Is personalized to attendees, and so we're thinking about getting the right data into our attendee data, tags and groups and things like that, that personalizes that dashboard experience. And so when someone signs up for a VIP experience, it looks different and they feel special because they have access to these resources and this extra video that the host made just for VIPs, and they get this a lunchtime only Zoom meeting or something that they get. Those sorts of things have been the things that we've thought of. So does that kind of help a bit, Liberty?
Fighting to keep Obvio. So and my brain is so full with everything else. I'm having a hard time just like here are the features and benefits that support us with having Obvio versus using a standard Zoom meeting. We're about to hit that threshold, Grant, that you and I used to talk about with the 200 based on my events. And so
congratulations.
So I just my brain is so toast right now that I was like, if you had something that I could.
Right.
use, and then I could fill out based on my needs. That would be helpful for me to fight my good fight. However, this stuff is helpful in typing it out as you talk, and then I can do my own brain dump, because I don't know if you've gone in and seen like how I built out my events lately, though. Pretty, like, I've got a lot of stuff there. So.
I haven't, but that's really exciting. I'm not at all surprised because of the way that you jumped in into the deep end straight away and started working out all the other customizations of features
And
that
I'm
you
not
could
a
use.
technical
It's amazing.
person, so that's why I like entered a bazillion questions, so.
That's good. That's great. So something that Liberty, I know that you can look at specifically is that I believe you're still on an enterprise plan, and I don't think you need to be. So at least what you're talking about, you could. So the difference between enterprise, you go to sort of 4,997 a year. The pro plan is 1,997. So 2 versus 5. Now the difference between those is how many attendees you have. So in a pro plan, you can have up to 500 people per event, 500 attendees, before you just pay extra for the extra attendees, right? So now the way that is calculated is that when an attendee goes to the dashboard, they are counted as active. So there are, as we know, no matter how much it seems, no matter how much people pay to come to your event, there's still a percentage that will not show up to your event, even if they've paid. Now, we know if it's a free event that number is quite high. If it's a free event, you might be looking at 25, 30% show up rate, right? But even when people pay, there will still be a percentage of people that don't show up. And so if they don't show up, they don't go to the dashboard at all, then they're not counted as an active attendee. So they don't count as against that 500. Once you go over that 500, then you pay for a block of 250 attendees. And on the pro plan, that's $100. That's for the event, right? So for $100 for that event, you would now get to have 750 people come to your event. Now, another key difference between these plans is how many Zoom meetings you can have running at the same time. And on the pro plan, it's 5. On the enterprise plan, it's 25, right? And so most events can run quite comfortably with those 5 active meetings. Once again, if you want more active meetings, you can pay $50 for the month and get an extra Zoom meeting. So that's how that works. And they're the key things. So if your events particularly are not going over 500 attendees, this is per event, right? Then it may not be necessary to be on enterprise.
What about the length, the duration of the event? Because I thought I saw something about the duration, because my days are 12 hours.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, that's all fine. That at one point there was a days limit, and that has been lifted, and so there's no limit on the length of event, and your only daily limit, it's not really daily, but your only other limitation is a Zoom limitation of how long that meeting can run for, which is actually over 24 hours. It's about 30 hours that a Zoom meeting can run, and then it'll just shut down. So you're fine there. Although I'd love to see your event go for 24 hours straight and just see what happens. It does seem like Tony Robbins pushes that sometimes. I've seen 18-hour days sometimes, and so that's a long day. So yeah, you don't have that limitation. One other thing is there's a couple of like little things like area registration is one of those little things that is there, that is an enterprise feature. We have per room registration, and I think Liberty, you may be using area registration because you can. That does that if you were bringing, well, on that sister event, they were using area registration. But for your event, because you have all of your attendees coming through the dashboard, it's totally fine. So there's a handful of features that are enterprise only, but I don't think that that would affect you. So anyway, that's worth thinking about because yeah. So the other things are like unlimited organizations for enterprise, right? Which is particularly handy for some people that might be reselling or running events for other people, and they can have as many organizations as they want. The Pro plan has 3 organizations. That's often plenty for people that are just running a few events. So that's worth thinking about. I think that could make a big difference for you.
Thank you.
Okay, Heather, next question.
Yes. So Devin wants to do a podcast and wants to know if she can record inside of Obvio Zoom, email my list from Obvio, and then direct them to the Obvio dashboard to listen to the podcast.
Yes. Yeah, there's no reason why not. Yeah, you totally can. You can record it. I would suggest, as we always say, try to use the Zoom cloud recording as a backup and have a local recording as much as you can, right? So that you're recording yourself, you're recording your guests somehow locally, and so there's a few different ways of doing that. And then you've got the Zoom cloud backup as a backup. So, but the concept of doing a podcast recording with a live audience all in Zoom, yeah, totally possible. The other things that I think of are like in the host tools in Zoom, where you can turn off, you can control what people can do, particularly in a podcast recording. You don't want people to be able to just unmute and not know they're unmuted and start yelling at their partner, those sorts of things. So you would go to those host tools, and you've got the allow all participants to, and then it's got share screen, chat, rename themselves, unmute, start video, all those. And so often you might just say, I want them to be able to start video, but almost nothing else, and that they can chat. And that way they're not going to disrupt that recording. You may want to think about spotlighting and things like that as well, right? So you might be spotlighting yourself and a guest or the guests. And so then your cloud recording is set to that, and it gives you a good video to be able to use for the podcast. But yeah, go for it. That sounds brilliant. Yeah. And you could use it. Sorry, go.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure you saw in the chat. She wants to know about them watching the replay as well.
Right. So you could do that in a few different ways. The way that I'm doing this could work. It depends how raw you want it to be. The way that I'm doing this is I'm live streaming to YouTube, really for the reason that so people can get the recording, right? It's not that people watch along live, right? It's so that people access the recording really easily. And so when I do this, nothing that I'm doing in this call, in this meeting, in this event is customized or special tools or tricks. These are all just standard tools that everyone has that has access to Obvio. And so when I start the meeting, I go and I go to the button at the bottom, live stream to YouTube. That opens a page for me to log into YouTube. It then asks me for a name for the event, and it starts. And it just starts live streaming. The thing that I've done a little bit differently is that I have a playlist in YouTube. And so as soon as the event has started, there's a save button. I click save and I save it to that playlist. And I was able to embed that whole playlist on the dashboard that you came through for this event. There's a little YouTube there, and it's automatically chronologically descending chronologically. So it shows the latest one on top, or it shows the latest one. And so that works really well. It's just a single place. You could do exactly this, right? Where all of your attendees that wanted to go and view the podcast could just come back to the live page, like the live Obvio page, and you could have it sitting there in YouTube, and away it goes. So that works. It works for me where I don't do any editing as much as I should.
He wishes he could edit out all his coughing.
Oh, my coughing, exactly. I know it's bad that I do this every week, and over a few years, people are like, how many times does he get sick? This guy's just always coughing on these calls. Yeah. It pays not to have kind of two jobs in different time zones. That's what I've discovered. So yeah, and so by not editing and that sort of thing, I'm able to just have that all in YouTube, and it works great. Now, of course, you can do some basic editing in YouTube too. You can go back over that, and you could trim it. You could trim the top, the start and the end, and now you've got it working there. You could do some basic editing there, or of course, the whole thing is that you bring the recording down. You do lots of edits, however much you want to do, and then post that somewhere to YouTube. It depends if it's sort of a paid thing, or if people are accessing it, if it's fully public or not. You could use something like Vimeo or something like that, and then still post it back on the Obvio dashboard, and that's where people can access it. So there's a few ideas, but 100%, it's a great use case for using Obvio. Sweet. Next question.
Justin said, for the Zoom AI summary, is it possible to get the more detailed summary in the recording downloads? Right now, it just has a couple of sentences for the summary.
Justin, have you seen more than what's being offered? As in, there's the full transcript, and then there's this summary. But are you thinking that there's more that you're not seeing?
So the short answer is, one of my clients, before they moved on to Avio, had Zoom AI going, and it would create multiple paragraph summaries. And since they've been on Avio, it's creating the 2 sentences summaries. And so they're like, how do we get it? And it's Clint Nobles is the one that's looking for it.
That guy.
That guy, exactly. And so I'm not totally sure what the setting was that he had in his previous Zoom, since that account is long gone, but he was getting those every time he ran a call, in his previous Zoom would be multiple paragraph summaries. And it wasn't the full transcript. These would be like hour and a half calls, and you'd only get like 2 or 3 paragraphs. So definitely some summary. I just don't know what the summary was.
Yeah. So I know that there is, through the API, which is how we're accessing the summary and the next steps. There isn't anything more than, like, we're just showing what we get. We're not doing any summary of the summary. So then I think it could be a combination of the AI companion is what it's called, and that's what runs when you start the summary for a call. Like I just hit start there. There is a way. Actually, I don't know that we've got that turned on in the call. Yeah. I think the answer is what I'm going to do is I'll have a look at the recording page. The Zoom recording page is where it has access to the different recording files, as well as like the summary, the next steps, and sometimes chapters and things like that. So I can have a look and compare it. And so I'll just make a note and see whether it is anything different. I don't think it is. And I think what might have been happening before is a summary and then turning on a panel within Zoom to be able to ask questions about, back to the AI about the meeting. And so then you could get more details, is one thing. But yeah, anyway, I'll make a note of that and get back to you.
Thank you.
Next question.
Yes. Jeffrey wants to know if Obvio can be configured to deliver an ongoing course with content delivered as downloadable PDFs and then live events on a weekly basis. This would be for a 6-week sprint course.
Yeah, no reason why not. Yes, an event can be reoccurring, as in the event like this one that we're in the event setup, we've just set it to be, I think it's like a year long, right? Because every week we come back and we start it up again. And so that works fine. The way that there's no limitation on that. Think about like this, that attendees can access the dashboard of your Obvio event anytime. While you have an active subscription with Obvio, they can access that dashboard. And so even if your event date and time it's outside of that window, the dashboard's still accessible, right? So all of those PDFs or resources or anything that you put on the dashboard is available anytime to people. And so the only thing that changes with your event date, start and end times is starting Zoom. Like it's being able to get a Zoom call going, right? And so as long as you have that window wide enough for your 6 weeks, then you'll be able to start Zoom each week. And then you could use things like the little countdown timer if you wanted to make it clear when the next one was starting the next week. But yeah, 100% you can use the same meeting each time. It's the same link. So you'd probably want to send email reminders out each week. But even if they went to an old email from the first week and it's now week 3, it'll work, right? Because the link is exactly the same. They'll get through, they'll go to the dashboard, just the same as we're doing here. Every week we send out the exact same link, your link, that takes you to the dashboard. You click on the link to come into the main stage and away it goes. So, yeah, it's a really good use case. All the best with that.
Awesome.
Okay.
Liberty wants to know if there is a software recommended for live streaming or for streaming videos such as Ecamm Live.
So we often talk about this being a religious discussion because of how passionate people are about the way that they run. And I'm interested, actually. I'd be super interested to hear what Muddy and Justin both have to say about this. So prepare your answers, boys. We've got a little panel. We're able to have a little discussion. So the way that I've done this in a couple of different ways. The studio that I have here is all sort of based around ATEM. And so we've talked about ATEM minis. Lots of us have little ATEM minis, which is an HDMI switcher, HDMI cameras in, and a computer in, maybe a couple of computers. And then that goes out over often USB-C into the computer. the computer sees that as a webcam. And now, instead of it just being one webcam, you've got 4 or 8 different inputs to be able to switch through. If you're playing a video out, you would be playing that from another computer that's going through that switcher and then going into the Zoom and played through that way. Now, generally, that's my preference, that hardware-based solution. I have an ATEM 2ME constellation that I have in the rack here, so that has 20 inputs. And then I've got lots of computers that are going into that, Zoom ISO, and lots of other tricks that I'm kind of blending software and hardware in this studio to run the events. Now, what else? The other thing that I have played around with is vMix. vMix is a PC-based software switching solution, and we've used that. Time out. Did I cut?
I think we're answering the wrong question. So based on my message in the chat and Liberty saying, attempting to avoid the Joe Smith is sharing video from Zoom, I'm wondering if this is a question about streaming video into Zoom, right? Playing video playback in Zoom, as opposed to live streaming. So
was I?
Perhaps
I wasn't.
Clarification.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I wasn't. It might have sounded like I was going down live streaming line. Thank you. What my point with the ATEM was that I was getting it back into Zoom to be able to play the content. Right, that's the way that I did that. With vMix, we're doing a very similar thing. It's just that it's a software solution, right? And so now it's not a bunch of hardware, but it's some software that is particularly for playing out videos. That software is seen to Zoom as a webcam, and now when you're playing videos out, it's not being screen shared. It's just coming in like a webcam input. And so I've used vMix in a more complex way, running that in the cloud or and running that on machines that are running in a data center and doing it that way. Then I know other people that use Ecamm, and I think there's Mimo Live is another Mac-based one. And then people use OBS to great effect as well for those sorts of things. But Muddy, what's your take on that?
So the overall big picture, what I would say is there's kind of two main ways. One is through screen share, right? And that's not a great experience in many cases for participants. The other main approach is sending it in as a camera feed in one way or another. So you can use Ecamm or OBS, which create virtual webcams. So then you can use that as your virtual webcam. You can, and I'm actually prepping something to see if it works here, but when you use a screen share, just kind of the basic approach, and that sounds like what you're trying to avoid. When you use a screen share, number one, and this is for everyone, because this is the easiest way from a production standpoint, the easiest way to share a video in Zoom is to use Zoom's screen share feature. When you use Zoom's screen share feature, you want to make sure that you check the check mark that says optimize for video. Sometimes that's found in you have to click like layouts and options to see that. You want to optimize for video. There's a better way if you are using screen share. Under the advanced tab on screen share, there's something called video file, and you're able to upload a file and it plays from Zoom's cloud. So you're not playing it from your system, you're playing it from Zoom's cloud. And that's a better experience and a better quality video if you're using the screen share. But I agree, screen share is usually not my favorite approach, because for most people that are using the default settings, when someone screen shares, it takes over the whole screen. and the speaker, the presenter is a little video in the corner, and you get this so and so is sharing their screen, and it's sometimes not the best experience, but it probably is the easiest. So the second major approach is to use some kind of a camera, get your video to play out through your camera. And then there's two parts of this. One is, how do you actually play the video, and how do you get that video to show up as your webcam? And to get it to show up as your webcam, that's where a tool like Ecamm or OBS comes into play, where whatever you show on that feed becomes the video. So for instance, we just got a second Muddy Schlegel in this meeting. Okay, so what you're seeing from that second Muddy Schlegel right now is just a little doodle. It's just my little doodle. But what I'm actually running is OBS through a virtual camera. And the same thing applies to Ecamm. And whatever I want to choose as my scene will come through as my camera feed. So for instance, I worked with Franklin on an event this morning, and here's the logo for him, and I could play that through here. Here's an event we're doing. And actually, if I want to play a video, I just click the button and the video plays. Now I have it muted right now so it doesn't become obnoxious. And also, this is one of my clients. Amy's usually on this call. This is from her event last week. But by clicking that button, I'm using OBS to create a virtual camera and then bringing it in as my camera feed. So OBS and Ecamm are great tools for this. There are a few other ones, but I'm going to leave some meat on the bone for Justin. So Justin, I'll throw it over to you.
This is going to be a quick empty of the bone, because I'm with Muddy on Ecamm and OBS. I'm a heavy OBS user. So all the stuff that Muddy just showed, I do the same thing when I run events using OBS and have buttons on the Stream Deck to switch to the scene that has the video in it. As well, for the virtual cameras, when you install OBS, it just gives you another camera source within Zoom, just like you pick either your webcam or wherever you're picking your webcam, and that drop down will be one that says OBS virtual camera. And so it does all that work for you to put that in there, and then whatever is in OBS going out is what it's going to pick up in that virtual camera. So I'm much more on the software side. I have the hardware, but definitely the software side is easier for most people to get started with. Takes a little bit less hardware. And when you get in the hardware side, you end up having a computer for the video, a computer for the camera, for switching everything. Like, you end up with much more hardware. OBS and Ecamm, you could do it with a single computer.
Yeah,
and
our
for
A10 only supports stills right now. And
correct.
So yeah.
All the A10s will only support stills if you stills directly inside of it. And so that's where you end up playing out. Either you have to have another device besides the A10, whether you get there's HyperDex, they have a playback device. I forget the exact name of it that you can upload files to if you wanted to stay on the hardware side, but from the software side, you could do it with Ecamm or OBS.
Yeah, so in the media player, it only allows stills, but it allows you to bring an HDMI source in as a webcam, right? So that solves the problem of how to get it in as your webcam. So you could feed a second computer into that HDMI port and have the video playing as if that second HDMI was a monitor, right? And you could hit play, switch to input 4, and now what's coming through the ATEM is that video that's playing on the computer. So you're using it really just to get an HDMI signal to become your webcam.
Good work. Sorry, I'm just juggling a little event that's happening at the same time. I think what this shows for everyone is that there's lots of ways. And this is something that I talk about regularly. Is we can all learn these different ways of doing this, And there is a certain amount that we need to do until your event grows big enough to be able to just contract someone like Muddy or Justin to handle this for you, right? And so that's the sort of thing that I encourage everyone with, is that there are things that only you can do, and there are things that you can have someone else do for you, and they'll do it really well, and they're dedicated to that task, and they have all the experience to be able to make that happen. And so my encouragement to people is, yes, when you're starting out, you're probably going to have to do some things yourself, but the investment of time that you pour into learning all of these processes of what is a skill and a craft in its own right, you could spend that time in building your event, and doing the things that you do best, and getting more people in, and making an investment in the income, and the investment in what, and then building your team, right? Because it's always a step of building the team. The team starts at one. I get it. You're often doing it all yourself. My encouragement is for you to think about, how do I double my team? How do I go from 1 to 2? That's the step to get to. Because if you're concentrating on how do I get videos to play, or how do I make all this stuff work, I think it's the wrong question. So the question is, what's the bare minimum I can do to serve the audience that I already have, to increase the audience that I have, to be able to build my team, and to be able to grow the whole thing, right? They're the sorts of things that I encourage you with. I've also talked before about how tech can be a big distraction. And sometimes the distraction is, this is a more tangible thing for me to do because I want to learn how to do this and make this work. And I'm not saying this for you, Liberty. This is just general that I see, that we all have a tendency that something is very practical and tangible. I want to go down and learn how I make all these Zoom things and do this, make this look pretty, and how do I make this look pretty? And you get distracted by that. Meanwhile, the things that really, really make a difference to your attendees, the unknowns, the things that are not as tangible, they're the things that you're not thinking about. You're trying to avoid that by going down the line of what's more tangible and easier to think about. And so I encourage you with that. Like, step back and go, I've said this before too, as a tech guy, as someone who has poured hours into making things look prettier and trying to make all that look right. When you sit back and say, what is the experience going to be at the end of the day? It's very unlikely that an attendee at the end of your event is going to say, man, the colors on that logo were outstanding. Like, it's not going to be that. What it's going to be is, I really connected well with Franklin. I really had an amazing experience with Doreen. She really knows what she's on about. It's like, that was really amazing. And occasionally we had a couple of little tech glitches, but you know what? She was amazing through that. And it was, you know what I mean? And that doesn't mean, but like, I run by this axiom, which is that perfection won't be seen this side of heaven. Excellence is being better day to day, week to week, month to month. So we're about excellence. And that is that at the end of your event, you say, what's the one thing I can improve? It's the one thing I can do better. So it's funny to hear this sort of, coaching from a tech guy, but I really do encourage you with it, because it's the things that really makes the difference. They're the things that are going to build your event, which builds your team. And now you build out your team, and now you can do all the tricks and things that you want to do because you have dedicated people to it to be able to handle it. So I'll get off my soapbox now. Thanks, Doreen. All right. Yes, we've still got some questions.
Yep. Liberty wants to know what specs are recommended for internet speed, Wi-Fi versus Ethernet, video card specs, and computer speed for streaming for audio video during an event.
Yeah, so we often talk about what the fundamentals are, the basics. There's the first thing you want to think about is power. Lots of these things don't like it if there's no power. So you want to make sure that the power is stable, and often it's a risk that we just take, that the shore power is going to work, that the wall's going to work, but it's worth thinking about. The next thing is internet. So the best internet that you can get to your location, sometimes that's fiber, might be cable, some sort of wired connection directly to your house. Fiber would be the best, and then you want to get an Ethernet cable from that into all the computers that are connecting. So the thing that happens with Wi-Fi is that it's very chatty, and every device, whether it's yours, whether it knows the network or not, it can be just devices driving past your house, is talking, saying, "Oh, do I know you? No, I don't know you. Oh, do I know you?" And the router has to respond, right? And so if you live in the desert and you have no devices around, you might find that Wi-Fi is okay. Generally, in built-up areas, and even in our houses now, how often do we have sort of 20, 30 devices that are all connecting to Wi-Fi, right? Yeah, it adds up. So you want to avoid that and have everything going to Ethernet. The actual bandwidth that you need to be able to do an HD send in Zoom is about 5 or 6 meg at the top. And so what that means is, and generally what we do is we sort of try to create a double headroom, right? So that means that if we're saying 6 is about what we need, I round that up to 10, and then I say I want double that. So ideally, I've got a 20 megabit connection upload speed. When I go to speedtest.net, I can do a test, and it will tell me what my download speed and what my upload speed is. Your upload speed, and when you're on a gallery view, that can jump up a bit. What am I getting now? It's about, I can see about 7 or so. Oh, it's a bit less than that. It fluctuates, but depending on how many people you're looking at and that sort of thing, it might be 4, 5, 6 meg, something like that. And so you want, at least sort of 10. So often the connections that you get maybe is like a 50 meg down, 20 meg up, or a, something like that. If you get 100 down and 50 up, those sorts of things is good. Once you get to a certain point, the size of that pipe doesn't really matter that much, and so it's more about the kind of the pressure of the pipe, in a sense, how good the quality is of that internet connection. So that's the sort of thing. And then having newish sort of computers, Mac or PC, that are able to handle Zoom and the way that the video is processing and audio is processing. That's all important as well. But that's the basics when we talk about power and Ethernet, internet to Ethernet. And then, of course, you start going down the line of audio is really important. And then the video, and we often talk about lighting. Lighting is more important than the camera itself. Amazing camera with bad lighting looks terrible, and a cheap camera with really good lighting can look really good, right? And so we go in that order, and then we think about the environment, and so you just think about that space that you're in. So that's a few things to think about, but yeah, getting those fundamentals right, power and internet. You can then go down to backups, things like that as well, and that gets a bit more complex. Often what I think about is programmatic backup strategies. Meaning, when I dropped out briefly before, Muddy just jumped in. Thank you. The show was like, if I had dropped off the face of the earth, Muddy probably would have picked it up, and Heather, and would have worked it out and probably continued through or whatever, right? That's the sort of thing you want to think about for your event. If you lose the host, who is the person that's going to step in? And what are they going to do? And so there's a plan in place. So we've lost the host. We've lost Muddy. It's a great opportunity now. Let's just take a 20-minute break, and then we'll be back, and we'll get Muddy back, and we'll work all that out. Or the plan is, hey, we're just going to open up some breakout rooms, just discuss what we've been talking about up to this point. We're going to break out into groups of 5. We're going to do that for 10 or 15 minutes or so, and we'll get Muddy back and make it all work. So they're the sorts of things I think about. You can have all these tech backup strategies, but having a programmatic or a content-based strategy in place, backup strategy, is really key. So you just have something. It could be very basic. It's just one person in the meeting that is a co-host. You've made them a co-host. They're able to unmute themselves. They're able to talk, and that's a great backup strategy. You've got me going today, Liberty. These questions. We revved up on some of my hot topics. Right. What else have we got, Heather?
Jeffrey said that he has an issue with integrating Elgato teleprompter with MacBook Pro. Would he be able to share his screen to show you?
Yeah, can have a quick look, and Muddy's got one as well. We might be able to troubleshoot it a bit.
Give me a second to do the sharing then. Okay.
Mhm.
You're not in that moment anymore.
I don't know what's going on there, because it's just kind of it's asking me to join the meeting, but I'm already in. I don't get it, but sorry, a little confused here now.
Yeah,
Right.
that error message is a
Oh, you see the error message here?
giveaway. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Right. So with that, then that's my issue. It says the screen sharing is disabled, and I can't move that to another area right now, but that is what it's saying. And that is, so I had it working right, and then I actually went to just change one thing, and it seemed to throw it all off. And then I called up Apple support, and they couldn't figure it out, because they say I have everything correct on that. So I did put it in the Muddy, you did respond, but I didn't kind of see how I could take that further at that time.
Let's just have a quick. We'll have a quick look. Have a quick look at your system preferences. So
okay.
So just down at
So is it? Let's see. Where do I now?
system settings down the bottom there in the.
Okay. Right. Okay. Settings.
Yep,
Okay.
go to that. Yep. We'll have a quick look at this. And
So,
then privacy and security, it's a few down from where you're at. Yeah, up.
Okay, right, got that, yeah.
There it is.
Okay.
Yep. And then look at, there you go, screen and system audio recording, that one. Yeah.
Okay. See, everything's on there. That's what we got with my Apple support person.
Right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And a restart after that hasn't helped.
No, I've restarted several times. Also, I was trying to actually see how I might be able to just actually get rid of that program. Oh, so there we go. Okay, so here it is here. And it says that I drag it down here to trash. but it doesn't allow me to get rid of it. So I thought if I could sort of start over there, maybe that might work.
Yeah, I think it's Muddy, you still with us?
Yeah, I notice an issue. So the way the prompter works is using a technology called display link that it essentially creates a monitor from a USB connection, right? This is not an HDMI cable or anything else. It's just a USB cable, but it uses this technology called display link. So I notice in your system tray, these are the little icons up at the top. There is one that looks like kind of two squares linked together, and it's grayed out. That is the display link software. So straight up from your cursor, up to the very top of the screen, two over from there, over one more.
Here?
That one. Yep. That is the display link software, and there's a problem with it. So this is the settings we need to look at. So it looks like, when you clicked on it, that top option said, login screen extension status available to download and install. So I would start there. And I would uncheck a couple of other options. So I would leave the first one checked that says launch automatically, and I would uncheck all the others. And then I would follow that link. Well, hang on. What's it say down at the bottom? Please allow your display link devices to connect to this Mac. After connecting the USB, a system prompt will appear, and you need to click allow. So it looks like what it's expecting is if you unplug that USB and plug it back in, you're going to get a pop-up, again, up in the system tray, up towards like where the time is. There'll be a little thing that pops up that says, do you want to allow access to this? And you need to click allow. So next step that I would do before I download and install that login screen extension is to unplug the USB, plug it back in, and watch for that pop up.
Okay, it is unplugged now. I'll plug it back in right now and see if it does occur, or I'll try to.
We'll keep an eye on it. Go ahead and plug it back in.
I have now. Okay, so
we probably need to get that. Your screen just went black on my end for a minute. I was going to say we may need to get that warning to go away because the system may be running in the background. But if that doesn't work and you don't see that option, the next thing I would do is download and install that screen plugin, whatever called it, screen sharing plugin. So a couple other things to try. And I think I offered once before, but happy to connect offline and give you a little troubleshooting advice if that's helpful. Oh, it looks like Jeff is frozen as well.
We've lost Jeffrey, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Muddy. I think that's exactly what it is. All right. Next question, Heather.
Cynthia says, is a Stream Deck the same as a switcher? I bought one, but I think maybe I should have brought something different.
Yeah. So a Stream Deck is actually just like a keyboard, right? Like it's just for shortcuts. So it's the Stream Deck software or using something like Companion is another plugin that's used with the Stream Deck. And it literally is just like a shortcut device. So it's not a switcher. It's not actually, doesn't actually it doesn't have any function other than triggering other things to do things. And so when we were talking before about, Justin was talking before about using OBS and different bits of software and using a Stream Deck with lots of shortcuts. Press one button and it does this thing. Press this button and it plays a video or whatever. But the Stream Deck doesn't do that. It just controls other software. So it's a handy device to have for controlling other things, but it's not a switcher in its own right. It does get a little confusing because it's like, well, it's got the right buttons on it. Cool.
So we have one more question. It was from Jeffrey. I think he has disappeared, but he wanted to know how you plug directly into the internet because he has Wi-Fi at home.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Wi-Fi router that you have will often have a Ethernet ports on the back, often 4, sometimes less. And so you can get an Ethernet cable. And then often now the computers that we get do need an adapter to have an Ethernet port, so a little USB-C, often USB-C to Ethernet. There's like a little dongle, we call them. And then you buy an Ethernet cable. And this is the thing too, is that you can buy, they're not expensive at all. You can get them from office supplies or hardware stores even. And you could get you could get a 30-foot or 50-foot cable that you could run down the hallway of your house if you needed to. And it's worth doing. And so you get the adapter that you need for your computer. And then you're able to, there we go, Muddy's showing one now. Is often USB-C is kind of ubiquitous now with computers over the last few years. Show you that. And so, yeah, that's an Ethernet port on one end, and then it has a USB-C on the other. And you get something like that will work on Mac and PC. And you get an Ethernet cable, and then you'll connect that into the back of your router, and the router will often have a few ports there that you can connect to it to make that work. And then that'll start using that internet rather than Wi-Fi. And to be totally sure, you can turn off your Wi-Fi on your computer and make sure that your internet's still working, and then you know for sure that that's what's working. So yeah, definitely encourage you to do that. You're back, Jeffrey.
Yeah, were you just responding to my question that I had submitted, I think?
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I missed it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll look for the recording then.
There you go. Yeah, you could go back over that. Yep. Cool.
It looks like that's the questions that we've had come through.
Okay. Just seeing that question line was saying, connecting a second monitor to my iMac, only Thunderbolt ports to mini HDMI to HDMI. What do you think will work? For Ethernet? He's talking about a second monitor.
Yeah, sounds like Lion's talking about how to connect a second monitor. And in fact, the hub I was just showing you, so the iMac has only Thunderbolt ports. And so what you need Thunderbolt to HDMI, or you could use a combination hub like the one I was showing that has USB-C, which is the Thunderbolt shape, right? So this works with Thunderbolt, and on the side of the hub it has an HDMI port. So this would allow you to then plug in an HDMI cable, but they make these that are simpler than this, that it's just a Thunderbolt or USB-C to HDMI, but something like this is a hub that has multiple options. So that's how you'd get a second monitor on an iMac with Thunderbolt ports.
Thank you, Muddy.
Yeah, thank you. All right. We've still got a little bit more time if there's some other questions thinking about with Obvio or how you're running your event or.
So I just have a little thing to say. This came up in chat a couple of times this week, so I just want to make sure everyone knows this. When you go to your event settings, the start date and time in there help you to know when you can actually use that Zoom room and make it live for everyone. your attendees are never going to see these dates that you put in your event settings. So you can have it scheduled days before your event, days after the event. But they're never going to see that. You can put a countdown timer and a schedule on your actual dashboard, but give yourself plenty of room on the front and the back end of your event, just so that you don't fall into any kind of testing errors, or you scheduled your event for 5 o'clock on Tuesday and your event starts at 5 o'clock on Tuesday and it's 4:30 and people can't get into the room that you have opened. So I know most of you know this, but it's just a little reminder if that comes up.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, you can see we got excited here and put it out to 2027. So I hope you're all available in 3 years' time for us to keep doing these weekly calls. And we'll have to change it again then when we get there. Nice. Thank you, Heather.
And then Catherine, you can just make your own event and just practice that way. That's the best way to really get a hang of Obvio, is just to create one, invite some family members to play the attendee role, or a spouse, or I don't know, a dog with computer skills. Who knows?
Yeah. One thing you can think of is that you can create even a separate test organization as well, right? So that you could do a new organization that's just a test. And now I encourage you you could create an event for every one of the templates. So a different new event for each one. And then so then you'll have whatever it is, 5. How many templates have we got now? 6. You have 6 different events, and that way you could sort of compare the different features of each template and play around, and that's all sitting within one organization that's kind of hidden away from your live events. So have a think about that. Yeah. Good. Anything else? Oh, Jane. It's not a Facebook question, is it?
Hey, so I have filled out one of those forms to get somebody to create my first dashboard for me. And I just wondered, how long should I expect to wait, or do you know anything about that?
Heather?
Or is that a blue problem? I mean, a blue question.
It goes to the LEAP. So when you submit that form, the LEAP team actually collects it, because they have to make sure that LEAP members don't already have one that's been done. They keep track of all of that, and then they end up forwarding it to me. I haven't seen one come in, but I can let the team know. They might not have sent it to me yet. When did you submit it?
At least a month or two ago. I asked Blue about it in one meeting, and he said, "Oh, we're working on it," or something like that. Oh yeah, I know about that, or something. But that was a long time. That was at least a month ago.
That's fun. I'm sorry.
So
I'll reach out to the LEAP team and ask them if they know about it. We recently had one that they never saw come through, but someone brought to our attention, so we were able to create it really quickly. But I'll reach out to them about
that's fine. I don't have an event, but I'm coming up the next month. But I would like to get familiar with it and start playing with it some. So whenever.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we'll chase it up.
All right, thanks.
Cool. Anyone else? I feel like we ran out of steam really quickly. Franklin, yes, the time's right. I said 90 minutes, and we're getting close to that. Were you waving, or were you saying you have a question? Hang on, let me unmute you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, it's my time now.
Good.
I had, I made that inquiry about the other meeting that you were doing, and I had that little scenario for 2 weekends. I looked this week to see, were you doing a meeting on Monday? I couldn't find it anywhere. So is that happening or is it not happening?
No, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, the bonus call. Yeah, I've only done one so far. And so there'll always be a notification when we do that.
Okay.
So
okay. That's probably a good
so,
approach. Yeah.
but you kind of liked that time slot?
Well, no, I just
Just don't want to miss anything.
No. I'm trying to get control of all these things in my life, but I actually like the meeting, so I like to listen to what you all talk about. So I don't think you can oversaturate yourself with this discussion, because it gets intricate sometimes, and trying to follow is a challenge, but it's a learning experience. So I like it. Weird, call me weird. I just like it.
That's not weird at all. I mean, I think that one of the things that this is a collection of people that are similarly minded, right?
Yeah.
Like that we have a common interest and a common direction, that we're all trying to achieve this similar things. And so often on these calls, I think we're diving so deep into a really specific issue just for that person that has very little to do with lots of other people, and yet we still have 20 people that sit around and listen to it, right? And I think it's just like there might be something here. If I leave, I might miss out on a nugget that makes me think of something else. And I think it's exactly what you're saying. It's just like you're just marinating in this because there could be something that makes you think about something else. Often it's the questions, like it's asking the right questions. And so it's not necessarily thinking about all the answers, it's thinking about the right questions to ask. And sitting around listening to people ask questions makes you think about questions. So it's the thinking I've got on that. So Heather, I did a Monday night, no, a Monday morning, my Monday night. So it was first 8 a.m. Monday Eastern time slot, and just did an extra call, and actually got quite a few people coming that were interested in that. So so that's cool. Muddy, I'm going to let you speak. I've just got to step away for 1 second. And so can you juggle?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I was thinking of you, Franklin, earlier when when Grant was talking about the value of having someone else, supporting someone else through your event. And in fact, there's a couple of things that came up for that. One is that inviting other Obvio users and other leapers to help each other. If you have an event that isn't generating a lot of money, or you don't have a lot of money to hire people, and I think I've seen that. I know that I've seen that in Obvio, in the Obvio Facebook group and in Leap Facebook group, where people are saying, "Hey, I've got an event, looking for some people to come on," and the kinds of things that folks can help with at events like that is kind of moderating the chat, and just being an extra support person in the event to support the speaker. Because as you know, when you're running an event and you're in the zone of presenting the content, you don't want to, there are people that actually close the chat because it can be distracting, or you start to read, you're in the middle of a sentence, you start to read something, and it was just someone commenting about something that happened a couple minutes ago. And so, that way, but having had the chance to support you for your event today, you also said to me that, in the call, that you don't have to touch anything. Having someone else lets you be at your best. And so I just wanted to kind of highlight that experience today, and that, it doesn't have to be, of course, I like to go all out, but it doesn't have to be a big production and a big show. There could be simple ways And what's useful to know is one thing that you can do when it's your meeting and you are the host. So the first person has to open the meeting from the Obvio backend, and they become the host in Zoom. But other people, even assistants, can join from the dashboard. You could just add them as an attendee, go into your attendees, manually add someone, or like we set up for your event, we use the sign up page, right? So people can just go to the sign up page, put in first name, last name, email, and they're onto the dashboard.
That's right.
And we had a simple dashboard with one button that said join the main stage, and a little welcome message from Franklin. And so anybody could come and join the main stage. So it was a really easy workflow to get people into the meeting. And if you have assistants coming in to the meeting, they can come in through what I call the front door, the same way, through the dashboard, click the button, they're into the meeting. Once they're in the meeting, the host can make someone else a co-host. And a co-host then has lots of ability. Well, the things that a co-host can do to support you are they can mute and unmute people, and they can determine permissions. There's a button that used to be called security. It's now called host tools, where it lets you decide what are the things that attendees can do. Can they screen share? Can they rename themselves? Can they unmute themselves? And one of the things that I'll often do as a co-host supporting someone else is when there's a presentation being given, right? When it's kind of a one-way teaching session, I'll click the host tools button as the co-host, any co-host can do this, and uncheck the button that says attendees can unmute themselves. So now I can sit back and I don't have to worry about whose dog just barked, who just coughed, because when those things happen, speaker view will switch to that person. And now you're seeing somebody cough and they're like, oh, like they didn't mean to, they didn't even know they were unmuted. But this way you can just eliminate that issue by not allowing people to unmute themselves during that part of the meeting. And then when you're like, hey, let's get some feedback, or what insights did you have? Great. Click host tools and allow people to unmute themselves. And now they can unmute themselves. So that's one of the kinds of things that a co-host can do to support you. The other way that we help kind of guide the audience focus is by using spotlighting, right? So you guys have probably all seen pinning and spotlighting. You can pin someone. That's just for you. That doesn't affect anyone else's screen, and anyone can pin. But a host or a co-host has the ability to spotlight someone. When they hover over someone and click the three dots or click on their name in the participants list, it will show spotlight for everyone. And if I did that, actually, that's what happened earlier. When I was showing this, one of the co-hosts, probably Heather Grant, I think they're the only hosts and co-hosts in here, they spotlighted my video and it went large for everyone. And so a co-host can do that. And if you have another person that you're having kind of a one-on-one conversation with, and that happened in your event today, you're like, hey, come on into the stage, come into the spotlight and share with me, what did you take away from the event? When someone is spotlit, you can hover over someone else and there's an option that says add to spotlight. And when you do that, now both people are spotlighted. It's this side-by-side view. And that really helps guide the focus of the meeting. And so that's one of the things that a co-host can do to support. And then the last thing I'll share is the things we talked about earlier. I'll pull in the conversation we had about sharing a video or sharing an image or something. A co-host, even if you have screen sharing turned off for participants, a co-host, if they're a co-host, they can still screen share. So perhaps you have a co-host where you're like, hey, assistant, can you bring up that photo we had? Or can you play that video we talked about? And they can handle that. So, and the really nice thing about having this, another person there to support you, of course, we talked about the benefits for the host, because you can kind of stay in that zone to connect with people. But actually for the co-host, it's great too, because you're not presenting. So you can give your full focus to getting ready to share this video when Franklin calls for it, or somebody coughs. So I can be scanning the participants list and see who's unmuted, and I can mute them, and I can give my attention to creating a great environment in the meeting, because I don't have the microphone where I'm trying to share content at the same time. So it's really a beautiful division of labor when you get someone to help you with their event. So
yeah,
back to you, Grant.
Is Grant back?
I am, but
Okay.
that's great, Muddy. Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to say on that, it's always an exciting experience. Grant, I felt like when I was there, I was kind of challenging you a little bit, because we had a breakdown on a couple of things, and we had to focus on maintaining the connection with the audience, and even if you have a small audience, you still have to think futuristically, because I'm not just dealing with the audience that's here right now. I'm dealing with a future audience. So whether you have one person or 1,000 or 10,000 people, your presentation has to be the same. So when I say things like that, I think of you. I think of you. And I think that's your zone of genius. You don't get a lot of time to talk about that, but it's really important. It's like what you were saying to Doreen. My ears kind of perked up when you were saying that. And Muddy, similarly, he's amazing. He showed me something else. He said, "Well, Franklin, if you have any other handouts or anything, then I can help you with that." And so I bought out some ancient documents. I mean, really ancient documents, like 1983, and he put it up there. And I was like, black and white paper. Like, I don't know how he's going to deal with this, but it really did help a lot. So that's just one of the things. And I really do enjoy participating, because it's like an art and a science to this. To me, it's really something really phenomenal. So I just wanted to say that, and you guys are great. I just appreciate how you all give input and help us to get our messages across clearly, and eliminate noise and be effective, and consider all these different things that we as a presenter you never want to have to think about. You want to just stay on the message.
100%. Yeah. I appreciate you saying that, Franklin, and I challenge myself with that all the time. Is that as I was saying before, about getting distracted by the technology, distracted in a way that it shifts your focus, and most people are not either going to notice or really care that much, right? Like, and so we're better to do it more simply and do it well and be focused on it, because often what happens on these sorts of things is that you can tell when someone's lost their train of thought because they're focused on something else, right? And they're like, oh, what button do I press now? Or what, this thing has changed or whatever. And it's just like, it's like the blue screen of death on Windows where they've just shut down, and it's like they can't think anymore.
Right.
And they've lost the connection, and all they're doing is they're trying to fix something that's on their computer, and people will switch off so quickly.
Oh yeah.
Whereas when we just maintain a very simple, like one of the things Muddy is awesome at and the Whiteboard Academy is the idea of like just really simple drawings, neatly done, but even on a physical whiteboard or a piece of paper. There, bam, exactly. I love that, right? I love the analog nature of that. Now, lots of people would find some sort of animated GIF or animation thing that pops up and says "bam" or this thing that happens. But you know what Muddy has done there is actually a better human connection. It's a better human connection than doing some big animation and some fancy thing on your camera, right? And I think it's a better connection that we have with Muddy. That I understand that my brain doesn't have to go, hang on, what just happened? Muddy's face disappeared. Muddy's face disappeared, and then I saw all this animation stuff come on the screen.
Yeah.
That's cognitive load for your attendees.
Right.
That's saying they've got to think, okay, what just happened? Okay, that's an animation, you know. Whereas when Muddy holds up a card, there's no cognitive load. It's like, oh, that's a card, because I've got a window into Muddy's room, and that's what I'm seeing. And so I really think that works. I'm often thinking, you talk about the art and the science. I'm often thinking, where are we getting in the way? Where are we getting in the way of that human connection? And that's why one of the reasons I'm quickly scanning everyone, going, is anyone using a virtual background? But I don't know that we are. I don't like virtual backgrounds for that reason. The cognitive load for your attendees is, hang on, Franklin is sitting on the ocean right now. What's the palm tree? What the palm tree is moving? What is that? And then his dreadlocks are disappearing every now and again, right? And his ear disappears, and when he turns to, like, half his glasses disappear. Now, the cognitive load is that each one of your attendees is saying, it's okay, you're not sick. This is a Zoom thing. And then every time it happens, this is a Zoom thing, this is a Zoom thing, this is a Zoom thing. And I believe that creates headaches.
Wow.
On top of bad audio, right? Same thing happens with bad audio. I can see Franklin really close, but he sounds really distant and echoey. Why is that? Whereas when we get really close, good sound, bam, nice story. You've got a follower, buddy. When we get that close, it just lifts that cognitive load. It lifts it off the attendees, where they're like, I can hear them, I can see them at eye level, right? And that's not changing around and being, wacky or whatever, right? So I'm constantly thinking, is this technology helping or hindering the human connection? And so whatever I'm adding, it has to be helping the human connection. And so, and this is the amazing things that I've seen with online events is, look, here we are. I'm just some dude sitting in Adelaide, South Australia, and I'm connecting with all you amazing people, and we're having a great conversation about how we do this stuff better, and we're demonstrating it about how to do it well. We're not doing anything fancy, not having flying in windows and all this stuff. We're just really simple. And so I've seen, I was getting to that point with Muddy with the cards, using flip charts, like using whiteboards. People are using, we just did an event on Obvio with pickleball, better pickleball. And Tony's using a vibe board now, just like Blue and Barry use that vibe board. That works really well. A really simple, simple interactive, whiteboard. And the way that Tony did it is that he went through and wrote all of his notes, all like you would on a flip chart, but kind of just on one canvas, and then just kind of zoomed in and out of each section. And that was really easy to follow. So it's still some technology, but it wasn't flashing and anything fancy. It was just, him literally just pinching and, and zooming in and this, and then drawing a little bit and then zooming back out and going to another section or scrolling the page over. It's just kind of like a big flip chart, that you were moving it around. But I'm a big fan of that type of experience where once again, it's a window into the space, and that space happens to have, you know, a whiteboard or a whiteboard, you know, a literal whiteboard. You know, I've seen that work really well as well. People just drawing and teaching and showing that, and it can work really well. So, yeah, I appreciate you bringing it up like that, Franklin, because I think it makes a difference. So then, when I think about of all the different events that I've been a part of, what have been the most impactful? Has it been the really fancy tech ones? Often not. It it has been the journey that group of people have gone on, that there's been this unique experience that they'd had together, that often is life-changing. And so what would happen if we focused our attention on that connection with people and genuinely experiencing the community together and creating opportunities for that to happen even more, which is things like breakout rooms. You hear me talk all the time about the parking lot talk, you know, and we did that in the pickleball event. And look, half the people left as soon as the event finished, but 150 or so were still around when the event had finished. We opened 5 or 6 breakout rooms, and people jumped in them, and they had great discussion for another hour or so.
Wow.
That took no programming organization, had no pre-production on that. It literally just was having someone hang around to, you know, keep the lights on, you know, keep Zoom going. And then people left of their own accord, and it kind of fizzles out, which is exactly what happens in person, right?
Yeah.
In-person events, you have half the people leave, they can't wait to get out of there. All the introverts, you know, whatever, they disappear. And then you've got people that are hanging around in the ballroom, and then they slowly go out to the foyer, and then they slowly go out to the parking lot, and there's still a dozen people in the parking lot that are talking 2 hours after the event. Well, why wouldn't we create that experience online so that people leave whenever they want to leave? And it works really well. And particularly when you have a day where they come back the next day, they say, that parking lot talk was amazing. I met XYZ, you know, and we had this great conversation. Really excited about day 2. And that's free. That's easy, you know.
That's great.
So
that's great.
Anyway, you got me all fired up today. And then I thought I was winding down, and then Muddy got onto it even more. So it stoked the fire again.
Yeah.
So
good. That means you're ready to answer more questions.
Yeah. Is there more questions?
I have 2 of them for you. Actually,
Okay,
one question and one feature request. So
okay.
Start with the question. For sending out an SMS, what permissions are actually needed for team members? So this is coming from Muddy, because I worked an event for him where he was using the broadcast feature, and I went to go send out an SMS, and I said I didn't have permissions to actually send out the SMS on the event. And he's had that happen to one other person. So we're trying to figure out what permissions in the role are we supposed to have in order for that to actually work.
That's interesting. So you could access the communications tab. You could see the emails. You could do all that.
I could see the email. I created a whole SMS, and when I got to the very end and went to go hit the save button, after I checked it, it said you don't have permissions to actually schedule or send out SMS.
Grant, I wonder how to do with the purchase add-on, since SMS technically costs money to send out.
Look at that, Heather.
I don't know if I'm right. That's just where my head is going.
That's well, I appreciate that, because that's where Blue's head would go too. And so that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because it is actually you know, generating cost or charging. And so is it possible, Justin, that you on that you didn't have that purchase add-on permission?
Great question. I just sent you a DM with the link to the org in the broadcast.
Okay.
Because as a member, I can't actually see what the role has.
Yeah, right. Have a little look. Just looking at team now. Justin James admin. Yeah. Purchase add-ons is not there.
Solve that question.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, it's super not obvious when you actually look at the dialogue. It says scheduled to pay with undefined card on file ending in undefined.
Yeah,
like it didn't actually say permissions. It just said I have an undefined card.
Ah. Okay. Yeah, that needs tidying up. Hmm. Okay. Cool. What's the next one?
It might be potentially good to split out some little more defined or lower level for purchase add-ons. Because I could see as a tech person wanting to be able to send out SMS, but maybe not purchase other add-ons.
Mm-hmm.
It does open up the books potentially a little bit.
Yeah, the permissions scroll is not ideal at the moment.
No, it's getting longer and longer.
Yeah, we need to run it down the page, not across the page. Made sense when we started.
All right, so we
cool.
solved that one. So now on to a quick little feature request. I noticed on the dashboard when I had duplicated an event earlier today that now when I go click on dates, it picks the current day, which is great. A lot less clicking to forward multiple months to pick the date. In the broadcast page, it does not have that same thing. It leaves it at what the original date was. It'd be awesome if on the broadcast page, when you duplicate the event, so you have all the old broadcasts that you're updating, if that send at date would actually at least default to the current date like the dashboard now does.
Yep, it's a good one.
Those were my two.
Awesome.
Cool. Made a note. All right. Anything else, anyone?
Cynthia, did you have your hand raised? You can go.
Yes. Is the ticket sales live yet on Avio? Can we start using that?
It's very close. But we're still in the beta phase of testing. So there's a few extra people. It's kind of widening. There's a few extra people that are able to test that, and so we could enable it for you. It just depends on. It's just the risk of something not quite working properly for you, and so you just have to weigh that up. And sometimes people have some events where, you know, they're dealing with people that they have regular contact with, and so they're able to manage if it doesn't quite work properly, it's okay. Whereas, you know, if you're kind of going quite public with it and not, you know, you want people to have the best possible experience, then you might want to wait a little bit more for that. But
okay, because I can see we can edit it in there, so I wasn't sure if it was live yet or not. Yeah,
so if you're seeing it to be able to edit, then it can be used. Yes.
Okay.
So you're welcome to sort of play around with it, and you can use it to have people purchase tickets.
Play around with it, test it, or
Yeah.
whatever. Okay. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Awesome. So on the section where it says choose your ticket type, what goes there? Because I don't really see like ticket options.
Yeah. So under marketplace, on the left hand side, you're going to go tickets,
Oh,
and
okay.
you and create tickets
Ah,
first. Yeah.
brilliant.
Yep.
I see.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that was pretty
But
easy. Thank you.
it's only obvious once you get told about it.
Right, right. Well, I clicked on tickets before and the page was blank for some reason,
Right.
but now it's actually there.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. No worries. All right.
It seems that Justin has another question.
Gee, he's
I
using them
know.
all up this week. Mm.
Yeah, I'm trying to be the last in. I'll just keep thinking of them. So on the services page, I have a client with an ongoing event that is changing their CRM. And we're wondering, is there a best way to switch them over to the new CRM without losing all of their current links that they've been using for many months?
I mean, it kind of depends on the service a little bit, but generally, you should be able to export your attendee data, import that into the CRM, and then enable the integration. And now it works for the new attendees. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah. So you should be able to populate the custom field in the CRM with the login URL, do all that before turning on the integration. And now you turn on that sync and it should only be working with new attendees, and all of the ones that are sitting there should be fine. So that would be my test to change over. Should
And
work
nothing
fine.
nothing that you guys need to do on the back end to associate it to a new CRM. It'll just do it based off seeing the email and the right tag.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Perfect.
So
Easy enough.
it'll be the email as the key identifier. Yep. And so then you're just unlinking the old one and linking the new one, and that's the theory. That should work.
Easy enough. Thank you.
Yeah. No worries. Great. We're winding down. We're losing a few people.
Come on, Franklin. We know you got one.
Then we've got just the faithful that are still like, what if someone asks a question and it unlocks my whole future? It's like it's worth hanging on an extra 5 minutes. I think. Oh, Amy, I was about to close it. What do you got?
I just did this today. The quick question is, I put up a certificate on the dashboard and I have it set to only show to those people who have attended for a certain amount of time.
Okay.
And I just tested it just now with the link in a incognito dashboard, or
Okay. Yep.
and
Browser.
I can see the button. Actually, the button shows up twice because apparently I created it twice.
Okay.
But on that dashboard, the button's not functioning. All the other buttons on it are functioning, but I did something clearly to that button that's making it not work. Can we take a quick look at it?
Yeah. What's the event called?
It's Mastermind for Animal Chiropractors.
Mm-hmm. And the test attendee that you're using met the criteria?
It was me. I have attended every one of them, so I think it worked. It worked earlier when I tested with it. So.
Okay.
I didn't think to test with somebody else. That's an idea.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to take their ability to go there away from them.
Right.
I can test with my husband's because
Okay.
he's for some reason on here twice.
Okay.
Let's do that. But what's confusing me is that when I go back to the dashboard to edit the button, because it's showing up twice and it shouldn't, I can't find the button. It's not showing up on my editing dashboard. And I will also add in that I have revised the template, the PDF more than once since I first put it up.
Right. So that's not a certificate. This is.
Yeah, and well, they both should be, but they're not working.
Okay.
They are not working like I expected them to work.
Okay.
And earlier when I had updated it once.
So that's not selected at the moment?
It was still working.
So see how this one's not selected?
Oh yeah, I get it.
So is that the one?
That would be the only one, yes.
Yeah. So there's that one. And same with that one.
And then we should be able to delete one of those buttons. It doesn't matter which one.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, let me put that there.
Because they should be the same.
We'll get rid of this one.
So I think I went in and hurriedly re-upped it and then didn't select the button.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would try that again.
Yeah, I just tested it again, not working yet.
Okay.
Oh, but I see it on my editing dashboard now.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Looks nice. Well done.
Thank you.
Looks legit.
It should work now.
Yeah. I don't want to show all your email addresses, so let me see if that updates.
Yeah, I could test it with. Let's try it with my husband's. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know he needed. Okay, there it goes. It just generated one. And he should find one in his email.
Congratulations to him.
He'll be confused. So when it says you'll find one in your email, then it opens a window for me to download it, which I guess is okay. But
yeah.
Like, I don't care how they get it.
Right. Yeah. It generates it on the server and then it sits there waiting to be downloaded rather than emailing the actual. It depends on how big those PDFs are. So, yeah.
All right. That was funny. I'm sitting with phones on, but I've not been plugged into the computer the whole time.
Fair enough. You just had some ear warmers on. All right. Well, somehow we managed to squeeze 2 hours out of this call. So well done, everyone.
Thank you very much, Grant, for fixing that.
Yeah. No worries. Yeah, there you go. Glad I waited to see that. Justin. Nice. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. You can always email us at help@obv.io, and you can also come back to this dashboard anytime during the week and post questions as you think about it. And then even if you can't make it, you'll be able to catch it in the recording. You can catch the answer. So awesome. Thank you, Heather.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.